Joe Orth and I are starting a podcast. What should we call it?
Hey, don't pick on me. You know why? Because this is why. Let's see what he says.
The Joe Show?
Give Joe the business?
That's right.
Cup of Joe.
Cup of Joe.
What is happening here?
Would you listen?
We'll give you a chance.
Thank you. That's Joe.
That's Rooster.
And this is the Together We Shall podcast, episode 13. What's happening, man?
Is that right? Why can't I ever remember it?
Yes.
13. It's been a hectic handful of days for me between drill and work, traveling, basically out of town for 5 days, but back in the saddle. I was talking to Leanne yesterday, and I think for every 2 days that like I'm gone or doing something like drill, it's an entire full day to catch up. It's like 2-to-1 ratio. It's not worth it, but I also don't have the ability to say no to a lot of these things. It's just like, man, I wish like while I'm like away and not able to get things done, everyone else needs to pause too. Just wait. I had the opportunity after drill to go down to Tampa for work, but also got to link up with some of our Microsoft friends, which was awesome. Had some beverages, Miller Time type beverages.
Wait. You say Miller Time? Wait, check this out. I got a Miller Time sign from Lynn McIntosh, and we're going to use it every time that we go into Miller Time. So I couldn't wait for you to say Miller Time fast enough. So it is officially Miller Time here. So we invite all our friends to get their favorite beverage, pop the top. And if you're tube fed, hey, let's get some good libations going through there too. And, hey, babe.
Why do we call it Miller Time? No one's even drinking that.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's good.
No one knows what's in my cup here. But yeah, so I got to meet with some Microsoft people, which is awesome. Gave out the last of my wristbands. So that partnership, as I think we've talked about before on here at some point, is continuing to expand. So I'm very excited to continue working with our friends over at Microsoft. That's it. A little ramble. Yourself?
The one thing I wanted to point out was that probably for the first time in many years, your face, because you recently drilled, is not full of beard and hair, and my face is not full of beard and hair. So I don't know the last time that our faces have been this closely clean shaven at any point in time in the past, let's say 4 or 5 years. I don't know.
I don't know either, and it gives me, dare I say, anxiety, but a little bit of anxiety. And like when I met some of those new Microsoft folks, were talking about basically why I looked 12 today, and I said, well, 36 hours ago I would have looked 21, but still it was better because I had a month-long beard and a little bit longer hair. So I was like, hopefully next time we get to see each other, I'll look a little more like an adult. Likely still won't act like one, but I'll look more like an adult.
I'm glad you didn't say next time I see you, I hope that I look older, because like people would be throwing rotten tomatoes at the podcast for you being able to say, I wish that I looked older. But I think you are saying that, like you grow a beard out so that you appear older.
It's like 2 reasons. One, I do look older, I think, with the beard, and 2, kind of like because I can. My rebellion, 28 days from the Marine Corps, like I'm gonna grow out my beard and not get a haircut till I have to again in 4 weeks.
It's very adolescent of you, but
yeah, I mean, but same reason why like you typically have facial hair, and your hair, you haven't had like a Marine Corps haircut in, is August going to be 4 years?
Yeah, but what does that have to do with me at all? Like,
because you for 20 whatever years you like had to do those things. So like I don't know, because I have to do it for 2 days every month. I rebel too.
But you're saying that I'm rebelling by growing my hair out and having a beard? No, I'm not rebelling. I'm just embracing freedom. It's not a rebellion thing, though.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm embracing freedom for 28 days out of a month. That's what
Anyway,
that's what I'm doing.
I don't know how many people are like tuning off already because we're talking about facial hair and growing your hair out.
I mean, it's in the description, tangents, this right away.
Listeners may have heard Lori's voice, and the reason that they heard Lori's voice is because she's joining us for episode 13. So for those of you that don't know Lori, wow, I don't know how that happened, but hopefully there is a day where people listen to this and they don't know who Lori is. So for those of you that don't know her, she was in episode 4 and she came to visit us and talk about respite and caregiving and fun things like that. But who is Lori? Joe, who's Lori?
Lori is your wife, Ainsley's mother, Ainsley's caregiver. She is our finish line lady. She is a godmother to Weston and former nanny to Owen. And she is a former Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. And I mean, the list goes on. She's an incredible human being. One of my favorite people.
Whoa. Wow. I should be on this podcast more often.
Yeah, Lori.
Thank you, Joe. I feel
You're
the
welcome.
same. I'm happy to be back. And I know that there was like some scheduling issues with our next guest. And I said, well, I'm here. Like I'll jump in and fill in. And so some ideas were bounced. And yeah, I'm happy to be back and talk about this podcast. I think it's good. I think it's gone good, boys.
It's a little over 3 months, 12 episodes prior, and we thought we could bring Lori back to have some conversation about those episodes, almost like a recap of the season, if you will. Some high points, some favorite moments, maybe even some quotes, and just kind of reflect back on the journey. Joe, what do you think about that?
I like it. It's that the world watches reality television these days, right? But like last night, Leanne was like, look at all these reunions for seasons of shows that just wrapped that she's like, gotta watch. And a lot of those shows are ones I don't want to watch. I was like, yeah, skip that. But yeah, it's the recap of the season. But I know it goes against our schedule. Should we just launch it on the 25th though?
I mean, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's do it.
But why would we launch on May 25th and not May 24th?
I mean, maybe if you launch it on May 25th, then the listeners could join you and Lori right now in a rendition of the timeless classic, Happy Birthday.
I'm not singing.
Oh,
yeah. There was no,
Yeah.
I was like, right? Editing happens. And then like, there's a bit of people singing Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
The power of technology.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. Well, I see what you did there, Joe. Well done.
How young will you be?
I will be 46,
Wow.
which makes me younger than Lori and older than Joe. But we're not supposed to talk about women's ages. Why is that? Why can't we talk about women's ages publicly?
I say you can. I don't know why it is. I'm not ashamed of my age. I'll be 47. I mean, I definitely, there's some changes happening, people. That's a whole different podcast. If you're a woman in your mid 40s, you feel me? That's a whole nother podcast. There are changes happening, but you know what? It's okay because we're just working through it.
Well, you said if you're a woman in your 40s, you feel me, so as to tell our listeners that are in their 40s and women that they feel you. But I'm a man in my 40s, and I feel you. In fact, I really enjoy to feel you.
Wow.
Wait,
edit that out.
We can't do that? Okay.
No.
All right, let's go back to speaking of feel you. Let's go back to the first episode, the bromance.
Oh, God.
How about that for a segue? That was pretty good. The bromance, first episode, February 15th. Joe and I got in here. We talked about the podcast. We're like, hey, tangents and thoroughfares. We're going to have some stories and laughter. And we really just went back in time of really when we first met and how we got to today. So, Lori, as you look back on that episode, is there anything that stands out?
The way, Joe and Leanne entered our life. Marine Corps brought you guys together, but then it just became so much more than that. And I think you guys did a good job at like letting the audience know this is how it started, is kind of like co-workers, if you will. And then it became so much more brothers, family, friends, it's respite, like all the things. There's so many words, but yeah, I enjoyed hearing, I already knew, but I enjoyed hearing like how you guys came to be, how you guys came together. And it just drove home to me that sometimes you meet someone and something just clicks. And it doesn't matter if you're from different backgrounds of different ages. I mean, because you guys are different in so many ways, but something just clicked. And there was just that connection that formed pretty quick. And that doesn't happen all the time. And when that happens, it's great when people recognize that and then latch onto it. And that's what you guys did.
It's one of those things where you maybe wouldn't think it works, but it does work.
Yeah, I would say for me, when it comes to episode 1, though, the thing that stands out in my mind actually happened well after the recording. It was when we got text message from Jerry Fallis, the guy who was there in the building with us when we met. And Jerry took the time to just reach out and say, man, the bromance, like, really love the conversation you guys had. And it kind of reinforced, like, hey, you know what? Thanks for that nudge in the right direction and vote of confidence that maybe this podcast thing can reach folks and can, incite conversation. So that was neat.
Full circle, if you would, to April 22nd, when I got to go to his retirement, and he had friends from high school, 20, however many years ago there, that based on their upbringings necessarily shouldn't have clicked in high school, and they are. And like, he's like, we have a bromance, me and these guys, right? And we had a lot of cokes at his retirement. That's what they call them. Had one too many cokes. We talked about that, me and Jerry and his friends, about the bromance and how important that is for men to have. Like, he does guys trips with these guys, and how it's good to just kind of get away if you can, and kind of reset with your brothers, and lack of a better term, right, of that bromance. So it's it's a real thing for sure. Absolutely. And I think women have the same thing. I don't know what's called a womance, but there's definitely the women word of that too. So I think it's important for, regardless of how you identify, to find, folks that fit that category for you, and, keep them close by, if not physically, through means like this.
Yeah. And as we wrapped out episode 1, we turned it over to Amanda, our senior vice president for marketing, and she gave it a listen. And she has the duties of extracting one quote from each of the episodes. And then we use that on social media to try to get folks to actually listen to the conversation. But the quote from that one's pretty strong. And Lori, can you share that?
Yes. Here's the quote. Somebody is actually taking the time to ask me about my daughter, and I love it. And that is the beauty of how our family's relationship was built, on that conversation. So that pertains to when we were all fancied up and at the Marine Corps birthday ball. And I had only known Joe and Leanne from seeing him at the softball field when you struck out, and then Joe got upset and threw his bat. And so I had never really spoken to Leanne or Joe, just, hi, I'm chasing 2 little ones around and wheeling the third around. And then at that ball, Leanne approached, looked me in the eyes and asked me, why is your beautiful daughter in a wheelchair? Share this story with me. I need to know. And that's when, our love blossomed. Me and Leanne personally, that she took time to ask me about, my child that presented differently. And Joe was nervous, and Joe was so different then. He was like, I know that he didn't want to upset me. He thought, what if that upsets her? I get his intentions, but like if Leanne would have never approached and asked that question, I don't know if the relationship would be what it is. And then I felt an immediate connection to Leanne, just as you did with Joe. So yeah, that conversation, I think, sparked this family, honestly. So have those conversations, ask those questions, because something so beautiful can come from it.
Yeah, you nailed it. Have the conversation, have the courage to engage in conversation. Ultimately,
That's right.
I preach that all the time about how making meaning of conversation and actively listening and engaging in that can be so, and it's an invitation, and I don't know, it's really neat.
And it's always important during those conversations to have a napkin.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been so many things along the way. Life goals, milestones, I mean, it's just, there's so many things. Like, it could be a podcast just on our friendship. I'm sure a lot of people have people like that in their lives. There's just so many memories and events that have spiraled from that one conversation, really, which is incredible. But yeah, so that's, episode 1. That was good.
Yeah.
Kind of like laid the foundation.
We jumped right in and recorded another one right on its heels with our oldest daughter, Briley. And that one was released February 18th. So it was like literally 3 days later. We needed to get the content out there, and we wanted to kind of get it going. We launched that episode, and wow, what insight. I mean, for Briley to sit down at the table with us and to tell a story from her journey of being a little girl with her sister Ainsley all the way to the woman that she is now, bringing Ainsley's Angels to Madison, Wisconsin as an ambassador, and all the things in between. So it's really special.
Yeah, I feel like that episode, I mean, obviously it's my daughter and I know all of her greatness, so I'm a little biased, but what I loved is just, yes, she talked about Ainsley's Angels and running with Ainsley, but when she talked about Ainsley's death and the days that followed and how she was processing her grief as a 14-year-old child, to me, that was the most important piece of that podcast, because there's so many people that are processing their grief in their own way, but then to hear how a 14-year-old processed it, I just thought it was fascinating. And I think it's good for people to hear that. And she was just so open and raw. And that was my favorite part of episode 2.
I mean, I've given Briley tons of credit over the 8 years as a human. And that, remembering that day, Leanne and I came over that evening, and then hearing Briley talk more about it, what is that, 6 years later? And then I've actually thought about that more, over the last month as there's been some grieving going on in our household, and just how it's reminded me that everyone grieves differently, and to allow them to grieve however best suits them to kind of be able to move forward. So yeah, that was a powerful bit of that segment for sure.
Yeah, man, and just to hear you say that, like this revelation that everybody grieves differently, and you have to give them the space to do that. Like the Joe Orth of the softball fields at Dam Neck in 2009, that Joe never would have said that. That wasn't even something you were thinking about. And so it's really neat. It's really cool for me to hear you say it in those words and to have that revelation. So if anybody's listening and you want to hone in on an episode that really provides perspective for youth traveling through grief, whether that's a sibling or a grandparent or a friend, Briley provides some really good perspective in episode 2.
Yeah, and I also know that now she's almost 21. She'll be 21 in August, and she's still processing her grief, and she's processing it differently now as a young adult than she was as a 14-year-old. And Camden and I have had many conversations. He'll be 17. He was 10. And he has triggers, and he is still processing his grief now as a much older young adult. And so it's interesting. It doesn't leave you. It like changes, I think, especially when you suffer a loss that traumatic at such a young age. It's interesting as a mother for me to watch them process and work through their grief and how it presents itself during different times of their lives. And I'm just grateful that they share with us process.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily get better or worse, in my opinion, but it gets different. And I'll never. Terry Koo and I one day, however, 4 years ago, shortly after Owen was born, post race with some beers, we're talking about parenting, and he said, it doesn't necessarily get better and it doesn't necessarily get worse. It just gets different. And we talked about, from diapers to potty training to riding bikes to driving, and it's not necessarily better or worse. It's just different. And I think that same thing can apply with grieving.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's great, Joe. Yeah, definitely.
So in episode 2, there was a quote that Amanda pulled out, and Lori has it here if you would share it.
Yeah. So Briley's quote was, "Most of my memories with Ainsley is when we started running. Ainsley loved running and I loved Ainsley. So I wanted a way to connect with her." And that's beautiful, because we all know that Briley was 9 when she first decided to run with her sister. She is not a fan of exercise or running. She's very healthy, but she's definitely not a fan of running. I don't know that she is even now. It's very therapeutic for her, but she knew she wanted to do that with her sister because that was a way that they could connect. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah, it really is. And that's really a good transition to episode 3, where on February 25, so that was a week later, that's when we started getting to the rhythm of releasing these on every Tuesday. My sister, Christine, came on for episode 3, and she too found running and volunteering as a way to connect. So it was really cool to have her. And there was some funny moments too, Joe.
Yeah, there's definitely funny moments in every episode, right? And the time difference, right? And as we were recording and releasing these and getting our platforms set up between like Briley and Christine's, right? We had Briley ask if they've announced who's been in the Super Bowl, and then Christine was a couple of days after the Super Bowl, so like it all came back together in that one. But the Corn Man and Get Down from Christine, because I'll never forget the first time you asked me about getting down, and I was like, what? Yeah, yes, like what? It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, and I've known Christine since she was 12, because Kim was 14, I was 15 when we dated in high school. So Chris was 12. She was,
That's crazy.
A middle schooler, and I didn't even know about the Corn Man. So even I learned something new. I thought, well, I'm not going to learn anything new in this episode, because I always want to learn something new about someone. And I learned about the Corn Man. I had no idea, and I was terrified. But yeah, now I.
And the other thing that really came out of that episode was a lot of good conversation about the formation of Ainsley's Angels, specifically the Sunset 5K, which if you're listening to this, man, come see us in Lake Charles, July 9th this year. It's the 9th annual Sunset 5K, and man, we'd love to have you. It's going to be a blast. But
the quote from Christine's episode is, "I bet you can't make Sunset 5K happen. Well, little sister made it happen." So my guess is that you had said that to Christine, and she's not one to back down from a challenge for sure. And she did make it happen, and it's a huge, 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 huge event now.
I think Lori just said event, right? And I think that's something that like we've tried to hit at over all the episodes, where it's an event, maybe not a race, right? Because a race is, start and finish. It's the before, it's the after, and in the cases of like Sunset 5K, it's a day or two plus or minus on each side. And for that one in 15, like that was an event for like myself and Leanne, right? In Winnie driving down to Louisiana, like mess there. Yeah. So, I remember going into a gas station in Mississippi, Alabama, or Louisiana, one of those, and like I was stunned because it was like a liquor store and a gas station. I was like, where have I come? This is different. This is different than the Commonwealth of Virginia. But that journey to Louisiana, and then everything we did in Louisiana outside of the race day was awesome. I mean, one of my favorite like weeks in quite some time, and that was forever ago. I mean, concerts, running, boudin, like just pools, like the whole 9 yards. So then to culminate that trip with the Sunset 5K for us was like the icing on the top. Because I think Leanne and I flew out the next day.
And I personally like to call them events. Well, I mean, the Sunset, okay, let's be honest, it's a party. All right. It's a throwdown party. It's not just an event, it's a party. But I call them events. As most of you know, I do not run. Do not run. I am the mother of a former rider. And so for me, all the races were kind of like events for me because it's all the things leading up to Ainsley's prep, and then you guys, take off, and then I have my respite, and I'm conversing and sipping coffee with my friends, and then it's a celebration at the end. So for me, it was always more of an event than a race because I'm not running. I don't run the race, and so maybe that's why I called it an event. But yeah, they're events because there's a lot more happening than just running.
So in episode 4, as we transition, March 1st, we had Lori on.
That's right. And that episode, I really wanted to hone in on being a caregiver. And I think that we touched on it a bit. There could be 5 more episodes about caregiving. But after I listened to it, what I felt or what I took out of it was, like you guys run the races, you push the riders, everyone's cheering for you. You get a medal draped around your neck. It's beautiful and it's wonderful. But the caregivers, we don't get cheers, and we don't get medals around our necks, and we don't get people telling us how inspiring we are and how beautiful. And I'm not here for that. And I'm pretty certain that majority of caregivers are not there for that. But if you know a caregiver, tell them thank you. Give them a hug, recognize what their day-to-day is, ask them what their day-to-day is. A dear friend of mine, actually my former dance instructor, reached out to me on Facebook one day and asked me, what is your day-to-day with Ainsley? Because she had become a caregiver for her husband. And she wanted to know what my day-to-day was with Ainsley. And no one in my life had ever asked me that. And I was so moved by that, because it's not pretty and it's not exciting and it's not beautiful, but it's life and it's real and it's strenuous and it's exhausting and it's days you want to give up, but you don't. You keep going, and you get love and support from those around you, hopefully, that get you through to the next day. But that's kind of what I took from it, is we're all cheering the riders and the runners, and that's how it should be. But let's cheer the caregivers too. That's kind of what I want people to get from it, is just to be more appreciative. And how, it's mental health month. Like caregivers, I know a lot of them probably struggle with their mental health. I know I personally still do to this day now, having lost my child. But it's a lot. It's a lot. So let's be their cheerleaders and not forget about the caregivers, the behind the scenes. So that's kind of what I wanted to drive home with that episode. Oh yeah, and feeling sexy.
Yeah, and feeling sexy. So yeah, so I mean, Joe and I we don't have anything to say to that. They have a beautiful
shout out to all the caregivers. That's
yeah.
I know, like as you said that, like you don't get someone to say anything to you, and I can definitely say over my racing journey, with our Angels, I definitely have taken and not taken the time to talk more to caregivers and thank them. But after hearing that again, now whatever 8 episodes later, yeah, I can guarantee that will not happen again. So shout
And
out to the caregivers.
yes, and the most recent episode, Craig McDaniel spoke of his wife knowing every ounce of their son, medications, treatments, every single ounce, and he's kind of like the fun guy. And I feel like that's not always the case, but sometimes it is the case. And not just with a special needs child, with children, period. Sometimes one parent is more of the caregiver and the other parent is more of the fun parent. And so yeah, I don't really know why I just brought that up. But my point is, let's just not forget about the caregivers and show appreciation. And you have been amazing at that. You always have made me feel appreciated. And so I hope everyone has that person. Joe, I know that you praise your wife. You guys are a team, but I know that when it comes down to it, you show her appreciation, and I think she does the same for you. And I just feel that's important. I feel that's important for caregivers.
It really is, babe. And I think your quote from episode 4, man, like, let's celebrate a caregiver, not just for the things that the caregiver, in this case, Lori, did for her children, but for her own self-realization. Read this.
Okay, so my quote was, wow, I'll give myself a little credit. I think that is what a lot of us parents and caregivers don't do. We're quick to say what we wish we would have done differently, but we're not quick to commend ourselves on the things we've done right. And I am queen of that. I will talk about my regrets and mistakes, beat them in the ground, but it's not often I pat myself on the back and say, maybe Ainsley lived to be 12 and surpassed her life expectancy because of the care I provided her. So
Amen.
Yeah.
Perfect. Know it, believe it, feel it.
Yeah. On to the next one, guys.
Yeah.
Episode 5.
Episode 5, March 8th. This was a trial for us, Joe. We're like, let's throw some people in a room and have a chat. In the end, I enjoyed it as a participant, but to listen to it was a lot going on.
Yeah, it was really fun, sitting there in that room and on the couches and chairs and everything. A little bit hectic, and apologies, I guess, to our listeners, but we were trying something, and every one of those people, is going to come back on in a one-on-one capacity in the future. So we'll get to have those deep dives and dances with Tim, Michelle, Laura, and Lauren at some point. So stay tuned. I have a feeling you're probably not going to want to miss the one with Tim. Probably going to be an hour of sarcasm on that one. so stay tuned.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, with Michelle, I mean, Michelle was Ainsley's preschool teacher. So to go back and learn and revisit some of the stories that Michelle may have never even shared with us about, having Ainsley in her presence all day during school. I look forward to that. And not to exclude Lauren or Laura, both of them have had great journeys and stories, and talk about caregiving. Laura Schuler, good gosh, with Gavin and the girls. So yeah.
And what I feel like what really stood out to me was, here are these people that once again are all so different, and because of one little girl, their family. You guys otherwise would have possibly been strangers. We would have not met Michelle. We would have not met any of them. Tim, Laura, Lauren, any of them. And so that's what's fascinating to me, is these people from all different areas, all walks of life, and you're sitting and you're talking about a common passion and a common drive, and it revolves around. It started maybe with Ainsley, but it grew into so much more. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah, it was cool, and I love seeing Joe and Tim in the same room, and we talked about it then. Like, go ahead, Joe.
Who doesn't love to see Joe and Tim?
Well,
we're talking about
yeah. If you go back, what was that 2004, 18 years ago, when Tim and I were in Afghanistan together, never ever would have thought that we would be sitting down talking about, inclusion 18 years later. Like, I never would have thought like we would be friends, or let alone, friends for that long, or stay in touch, or anything, and it's but it's that goes back to the bromance and the brotherhood. I mean, just this past weekend, our company from Hawaii held their annual reunion, and I went to run a PFT in Camp Lejeune instead. But it's like talking to Tim through the weekend and seeing all those pictures. It's like the relationships that you build in communities like this, whether it's the Marine Corps or Ainsley's Angels, truly will last. So that was special. And then also with Lauren, committed in some number capacity, I forget what that was, to running the Marine Corps Marathon. So here, halfway through this episode, is my Marine Corps Marathon pitch. If you are listening and interested in riding or running the Marine Corps Marathon, training starts next month. So email joe@ainsleysangels.org.
So we also have an Instagram account, and Lori, can you read the quote?
If we get 147 followers on the @TogetherWeShall podcast Instagram account, Lauren and Lauren will push a rider named Lauren during the Marine Corps Marathon.
Gosh, so 6 more people is all we need to hit 147, because at last check we're at 141 on that Instagram channel. But we do need to point out that since the recording of that episode, not only have we been able to find a rider named Lauren, but the other Lauren in that quote is going to be unable to make it. So it looks like Lauren Bruce is going to be running the Marine Corps Marathon with someone else. But anyway, all that's to say, we had fun in episode 5.
Or we can just get to 147 and no one has to do anything.
This is true. This is true. So then we went to episode 6, and
Yeah,
what a great
episode 6. That was y'all's first guest that is a writer.
Yeah, the vet came and joined us from New Jersey, and we just had a great time. And we learned so much, Joe, collectively, about really her life and her journey, and some of the opportunities that she's had and challenges that she's overcome. I loved it. I mean, what was the quote from that one, Lori?
The quote is, Ainsley's Angels actually makes people with disabilities feel like they are strong. As a little person, growing up, I didn't have stuff like this in the 80s and 90s. Back then, it was a lot more discriminatory. Saying what you can't do versus can do. I am proud to be a part of this family. I
mean, that just puts a cherry on top of the episode, and I'm just so grateful. Also proud to be part of this family with you.
For me, as the mother of a writer who was nonverbal, hearing her express what it feels like when she is in that chair, and her gratitude to everyone and how she feels, gave me an inside look on how Ainsley probably felt. So that really, I really appreciated that episode, and I really appreciated her for sharing that for me.
And it ties very closely to, I think Rick said it right. When I'm running, I feel like my disability doesn't exist. Like, and so to hear, people like Rick Hoyt say that, and then, Yvette, it's awesome, because, Ainsley never got to say that, but we know that's how she felt.
Yeah, it was great. And she's lovely and joyous and a ball of fun, you can tell. And I know you're her dance partner, and that's great. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to the episode.
We got, Let's Dance, about that part of the episode, and we made that happen. So awesome. Yeah. Grateful for Yvette to join us. That then set us up for episode 7 with Team Warner.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow.
Yeah. So holy cow. Name of their book that they wrote. And of course, if you haven't listened to the episode, please do. Just such an inspirational power couple that has overcome so much, and has used just their love and faith in one another to just propel them. What was their quote, babe?
So their quote was from Michael, and he said, when you're paralyzed and you have a 1% chance to ever walk again, just holding a camera is a gift in itself. And we can't give too much away. You need to listen if you want to know exactly what he's referencing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But what I Well, first of all, they're incredible, incredible people. And I can't wait to read their book now that we have our copy. Holy cow. But what I took away is this family that we call Ainsley's Angels, this family that has been created. Everyone has a story, and everyone's story is not like mine or yours or Joe's. Everyone's story is different. And boy, do they have a story.
Yeah. So such a story, they made a book out of it. So I don't even want to get into their story here, but I just want to push y'all to read the book or listen to the episode or both.
I got a text from someone yesterday who's catching up on the podcast, and they were on that episode, and they said, Joe quotes, only you would say, physically the carts are like the best in the history of shopping carts, because we were talking about their connection with Target and everything, and yeah, those carts are amazing. Like, what? Whoever manufactured those, can you make adaptive racing chairs? Yeah. Target, not sponsor.
Yeah. So speaking of adaptive racing chairs, we have episode 8 with Sean and Seamus, who definitely know a lot about adaptive racing chairs. They are the fastest Ainsley's Angels team I think we've ever had accomplish mini races. To include running across the entire country and down the entire Mississippi River.
I mean, I feel like I need an entire podcast just to talk about this family, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. I'm like,
that's how we said that too at the end. It was like, well, now we need to have Nicole and Simon on, and then you could have all 4 of them on it. Easily a month worth of podcasts with those folks.
Yeah, the Evans family, I want to be part of their family. They are my family, but I want to legit live in the house with them and be part of their family. This family, oh wow. They're so amazing and thoughtful and giving and loving and caring and selfless, and it goes on and on and on. And God, they're all gorgeous. It's just cherry on top. But, when Sean was pushing Seamus across America and his family was supporting, and then we met up with Ainsley to do some of those legs, I couldn't even look Sean in the, remember this. It was yesterday. I couldn't look him in the eyes. I didn't greet him. I didn't hug him. And eventually he came over to me are you going to tell me hi? I was literally starstruck. And I was like, wow, now I just look like a, rude, whatever. It's because I was starstruck. It's Sean Evans.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's all I have to say about that episode. I can't even.
Yeah, I mean, babe, just a wonderful family. And I've really just been grateful to get to know them. And I now get an opportunity every week to talk to Sean as he's helping develop curriculum for Ainsley's Angels, not just internally, but eventually external curriculum that hopefully touches many of you in the years to come. But what was the quote? If memory serves me right, it came from Seamus, actually.
It did come from Seamus. And Seamus said, the days we had a family to present a chair to during Run Across America were the days we looked most forward to.
Yeah, you got to listen to that episode because I asked Seamus, what he remembered the most and what he enjoyed the most. And he could have said walking out of the outfield, the cornfield outfield at Field of Dreams with his family.
He could have said, I just ran across America.
Yeah, so many things he could have said, but he went with, it was the days that we got to give Freedom Running Chairs to other families.
Bringing joy to others. Look, I'm about to call them up and see if they need a roommate.
that family's like no other. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture of Simon the other day, and I'm like, God, he's as big as I am.
I know, right?
Totally is. Episode 9, April 19th, Christy Cormier. We have gotten so much feedback from that episode.
Yeah.
What a just well-spoken, extremely intelligent perspective that I didn't think I was going to gain in a podcast conversation. We're bringing Christy back. We've already told her at some point in the next 8 episodes she's coming back. Lori?
Yeah, Christy's episode is one of the only ones I listen to multiple times, and it's because there's so much good insight and information and knowledge, and who knew? I mean, we went to high school with Christy. Who knew? This girl is making changes.
Yeah.
This girl is making changes. And wow, I mean, I learned stuff I didn't know. Wow, it was powerful. It's one of my top personal favorites because man, it was powerful in so many ways and so educational.
The listeners definitely agree. Like you just said, that's why she's coming back. But I've never really had that deep dive with Christy until the episode. You know, I mean, there's been a lot of banters at events, and I feel like it's not the right term, but like I'm like intimidated. She's intimidating because she's at one of those. You know, I think maybe it's just like Louisiana women or something. Like if you cross her, like you're gonna get an earful, and like that's gonna be their inside voice. So like it's still gonna. But God, yeah. And then I mean we've had conversations since then with her Rooster and I about like things that we talked about that I've then seen like in stores here. You know, when it comes to inclusion and DEI, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, very excited to get her back. Definitely a great woman.
There was so much in that podcast that she actually had 2 quotes, and I don't know if I got them both to Lori. I know I got at least one of them to her. Go ahead.
Yeah, this one is, it gets to that point where you are so misunderstood because you are just trying to raise your kid. It's not just the child being misunderstood, but the caregiver as well. Well, now we know why this podcast really hit home with me, but so many people are misunderstood. Don't judge someone based off of, so many things, appearances or the way they're acting in a moment. Or like I try to go into it with, I don't know what their story is. I don't know what their day is. There's so many different things, but so many of us are misunderstood.
Yeah, absolutely. We got into episode 10 right on its heels, and we brought Jen and Beth in, and of course the 10 meant something because Jen shares a birthday with my sister, October 10th. But man, we brought this power couple in as well, just like the Warners, in the sense that they're just making impact and they're making change and they're doing it, leading with their heart. Oh man, I don't know that I was ready to go from Christy Cormier. Let me back up, to go from Team Warner to Sean and Seamus to Christy Cormier and then get Jen and Beth. Like, wow, it's a lot. It's awesome.
Yeah, and Joe, you spoke about feeling intimidated of Christy Cormier. I have a little bit of this with Jen and Beth because they're just so strong and powerful, and not only in the physical sense, but in the mental and emotional sense. And they just have this energy that just like is undeniable. And I know they both have handcuffs. Their profession. So I am definitely intimidated by these ladies in a good way.
I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of our communication is via email. Like when she's at work, she doesn't have her phone, and they have to like type all their stuff in caps. So she'll email me and be like, "Where are my t-shirts?" And it's like, God, why are you yelling at me? It's like, and then I respond with that. It's like, that has to stay on there. I'm like, you can just hit it again though. Like, God. But it's that's been an ongoing joke for her and I for whatever 7 years now. Like, they're awesome human beings.
What was their quote?
Okay, so Beth and Jen's quote was, "Ride those highs as long as you can ride them, but they won't last forever. When you come off that high, how do you find the energy, courage, and family to help you get back to the top of that wave?" And you talk about waves a lot.
Well, it's funny that you say that.
It's important.
Because that's actually my quote from the episode. But Amanda.
Oh, that's yours.
And I know that I know that can be confusing, but like the conversation with Jen and Beth took me to ask that question. It took me to that place. And the conversation that Jen and Beth offered in response to that kind of question was so insightful. How do you get back up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a good one.
Yeah. What a great episode.
I miss those ladies.
And then we rode the momentum. Yeah. Episode 11. Bill Johncock. having completed the Boston Marathon with his son Logan. We rolled him in here to talk about. We didn't really know where we were going to go with it, quite frankly, Joe, but it ended up being three guys in Bill, Rooster, and Joe, separated by 8 to 12 years in between each of us, ultimately getting to have some of our deepest dives that I think we've had as we talked about the power of love, being inspired and then inspiring people, and frankly, the role that our mothers and women have played to elevate all of us to become better humans. It was powerful, and it came right on Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the love of mothers, the love of our children, the love of racing, the love of cheeseburgers. Yeah, there was that thing did some tangents for sure. And that was awesome episode for sure. And Team Logan's got some big goals ahead of him, and as we said in the episode, happy to support them through that effort.
Yeah, take some time, y'all. Please listen to 10.
Yeah, I'd like to say I don't know Bill Johncock. I don't know his son. I know nothing about this man. And I listened to the episode, and it was honestly one of my top favorite episodes. And it's because of what you guys just said. It's three men, three fathers having an emotional, just real conversation about love of their mothers, love of their children, and it was emotional. This one was surprisingly emotional for me, and the way he spoke of his relationship with Logan was very parallel to what your relationship with Ainsley was. But I loved hearing three dudes talk about this stuff in such a beautiful, beautiful way. I loved it. It's one of my top ones, actually. I loved it.
The quote from that episode?
The quote is, "A lot of these people don't have people that are with special needs in their family, but they have great hearts to do something for someone else, and that's even more amazing than what I have to offer, just being a loving dad."
Yeah, and he's talking about folks like Joe, who come into the Ainsley's Angels family with no connection to the special needs world, the exceptional people space, but is so moved by it and then commits essentially their life to the cause, to the effort, to the advocacy. So, yeah, salute to you, bro. And you're not going to take that because you're humble about your execution. But there's a lot in what Bill's saying there. So, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Episode 12.
Wait, salute me again. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Okay, so episode 12, we followed that same vulnerable conversation theme and tied it to the month of May being mental health awareness.
Yes.
And we brought in a psychologist, a school psychologist, our ambassador in Kansas, Craig McDaniel. And boy, did we, what a conversation.
I feel like this is another family I'd like to move in with. Just putting it out there if you're listening. Because from listening to Craig's podcast, I could feel the energy in that house. I can't explain that. Do you guys feel me? I could feel the energy in that household, and I want to be a part of it because it's exhausting and exciting and loving and fun and supportive. I just felt like I want to be in that house.
Well, I have been in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exciting and it's exhausting. And I mean, gosh, we danced around to music at the same time that, Michael was getting his treatments, and there was cooking going on over here. It's
they could probably use help, right?
Oh, yeah.
Call me.
Okay. I don't call Lori to come and move in with you, please.
I mean,
I
I
really want to go to somewhere in the middle of America.
Yeah, I want to live with Joe and Leanne too because I want to be back with the boys. I just want to live with so many people. We just need to all live together. Mm. Okay, we're getting off topic. So, Craig, you guys go. I thought it was fantastic.
I mean, that episode, I mean, looking back at this, I mean, Craig and Bill, the only two people that I've never met in person. So, and then, like, both how special those episodes were, were great, and still in Mental Health Month. And so anyone that's experiencing anything with there, reach out to someone, reach out to us, whatever it may be. And then there was also some gut-wrenching humor in that episode as well. I mean, Craig was a terror, it appeared, growing up for a little bit, and then growing wiser, we'll say, instead of older. We talked about blazers, but he had a whatever that other CRX or WRV or something crazy like that. But then sometimes you just need a chicken quesadilla.
Yeah, it was all over the map, but it was all at the same time on a thoroughfare to well-being and learning to struggle well and learning how to acknowledge when you might need change and you might need help.
And the importance of asking for that or speaking to someone about that, because a lot of us, we might look put together on the outside, doesn't mean we're put together on the inside. And it's important to let your loved ones know what's truly deep inside.
Because without those conversations, even the person that loves you or you love the most may not ever know the depths in which this struggle is occurring. And so there's no promise that the person that you love or that loves you is going to be able to help you with it. But by having the conversation, they at least know how to show up alongside you and how to do it in a way that is potentially comforting or helpful. As I pull up alongside you on the video, babe. See, right next to you.
And I even put heels on for this. Is ridiculous, you guys. I'm so short. Okay, let's just show our truth, okay?
Yeah.
I had put heels on because they wanted me to be taller in the screen, but it's a podcast. You should be listening, not watching, because then if you watch it, there's distraction.
I know, babe.
Preach.
Y'all can't say that because now we're talking about.
For the record, I don't watch any of them.
Okay.
I only listen because if you watch, it's too many distractions. I just want to hear what they're saying.
Okay. So a lot of people do watch, and especially when you're going to show them how when you take your shoes off, you're shorter. Like now they're going to the YouTube. Just if they weren't looking at the YouTube, now they are.
Okay.
I forget someone made fun of me for like stretching during it, and I haven't. But God, it's tight. They're like standing here. I gotta move around.
I put lip gloss on because I knew it's going to be on camera too.
Mm.
Well, okay, I always put lip gloss on, but anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, guys, look, we did it.
Yeah, we did it. The dirty dozen. 12 episodes recapped in a meaningful conversation. They got us here to the end of 13, and like we always do, I mean, we either go with what's next, what's your weekly word, or what do you want to leave them with, Lori? What do you want to?
Well, this is what I want to add. Tell everyone you know about this podcast, because if you have no connection to special needs, if you have no connection to running, if you have no connection to a nonprofit organization, I feel everyone can relate to something in every single one of these episodes.
So it's not just an Ainsley's Angels family thing.
No, and I know future plans is to bring, different people. It's just so good. Like I've gotten something from every single episode that was unexpected. Like I didn't know how bad I wanted to live with the Evans family.
I mean, I almost want to just roll the credits with that. I mean, I'm done here, right?
Yeah.
And
I need to be reunited with my people that make me feel sexy.
Yes.
Listen to my episode. God, Joe and Leanne, get over here. I need it so bad. I need it.
We'll be there in a month.
Okay.
Perfect. Joe, what's the weekly word for you as you jump into the rest of May here?
I don't have a weekly word, but one of the things also is like, what's next, or what do you want to leave everyone with? And I'd rather go with that. Just as we are wrapping up, Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's one of those things we talked about in that episode. Like, it's not just the month; it's all the time. So, again, if you're struggling or just need someone to talk to, and you friends, loved ones, us, you know how to get a hold of us. We're happy to chat with anybody at any time. So don't leave all the feelings building up inside, reach out to somebody. That's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, can I do a weekly word?
We invite you to do
Okay,
it.
my weekly word is Briley. My weekly word's Briley, and that's because Briley gets here. Well, by the time it airs, she'll be here, but she gets here in 2 days for just a quick little visit. And tying all this in, it's because she needs a little bit of mental health. I need a little bit of mental health. Sometimes you just need a mom hug. Sometimes you just, I just need to go to bed at night knowing that she's laying in the room right next to me. So it's going to be great mental health for our entire family to have Briley here with us for 4 days. So that is my word, because it's all I'm thinking about right now is Briley coming home. So yeah.
You know what? I got enough.
He's in charge.
We're done. This was good.
Yeah, we're done here. The structure of this building has reached its capacity.
Find your people, and if they make you feel sexy, even better.
To all our listeners, don't forget at the end of October, Ainsley's Angels is an official charity partner of the Marine Corps Marathon. So if you would like to ride or roll, email Joe at ainsleysangels.org.